hypnosis is often portrayed as a villain characteristic and this evil superpower, but really it's just a natural psychological state that's similar to what we experience when we dream. If Norma Jean is thinking, hey, I'm now going to create this belief, I am Marilyn Monroe, she embodies that and she creates that experience. If I'm voicing a character and I'm saying, oh, in this moment, I'm going to believe I am this character, and how would this character act and how would they be? That creates a new experience.
If you could hypnotize the entire planet for like 60 seconds, what would you tell everyone? This is so exciting.
Coming to me live from Disney, it looks like. What's this?
I tried to pick a background that fits.
There we go. Super fun. Well, I'm not coming live from Disney, coming live from my room in Los Angeles.
That's Disney enough for me.
There we go. There we go.
Thank you so much for being here. This is so exciting.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
I discovered your content just a few months ago, and I was so impressed because I thought this guy is super funny. You're doing something that not many people would probably do or would probably feel too shy to do that. And I wanted to know who is the person behind all the work you do. I wanted to know more about you. I stumbled across your feed because of the Donald Duck performances, and I thought the voice is
great.
so funny. You're doing such a great job. It actually
That is
sounds
such a fun
like
one
him.
to do.
Yeah, I can
I
imagine.
appreciate it.
Yeah, and I really love also the content where you ask people what voice would match the character. So that's also cool. And I think you have such a great vibe and you give people something positive, something to laugh about. So yeah, that's why I wanted to know more about you. I'm Anastasia. I started Insanity, the Fun Philosophy podcast, a while ago. Not such a long while ago, but it's still fresh. And the idea is to create a safe space for people to be themselves, to be authentic, and to question what this actually is and what it means for everyone. Because I figured that just following the advice of other people, what you should be doing, doesn't necessarily lead to happiness. And that's why I appreciate creators like you who do something entirely different and who inspire others to find something that makes them passionate about life. So, yeah, thank you very much. And I wanted to ask you if you could tell me a little bit about yourself and how your journey started as a content creator, as someone who hypnotizes people and who does all this fun stuff.
Yeah, so my journey doing content started as a hypnotist. So that was my journey before getting into doing voiceover and voice acting was through being a hypnotist. I started learning hypnosis for fun when I was a senior in college. I got into it from doing magic and sleight of hand, and from there I got into doing comedy, some stand-up, some improv. I thought, hey, why not try hypnosis as well? And that was the one that really stuck out to me, the one I really had fun doing and really enjoyed the most. And as a communication major, I didn't have a specific trajectory lined up for after college. So I decided I'm going to become a professional hypnotist when I graduate. And of course,
Wow.
my parents were thrilled with my life choices. But no, they
What?
were little bit reserved, but they were, okay with me doing what I was excited about. And so I ended up making that work. And getting on social media and doing content was initially just to try to make a name for myself as a hypnotist and put myself out there and show the social proof and figure out that weird dichotomy of how do you get booked unless you have experience, but how do you get experience unless you get booked? Like, how do
Right.
you figure that out? And so to me, it was just putting videos of whenever I would perform. A lot of times it was free performances. I did a bunch of shows at the residence halls on campus when I was graduating just to try to get experience and get myself out there, and did a lot of street hypnosis where I would go up to
Wow.
strangers at a park or a beach and say, hey, do you want to be hypnotized? And most people would say no, because that's a weird thing for a random person to ask you. But sometimes people would say yes, and I would film it. And that would kind of be my early start into content. And then whenever I had a show, I would always film it and try to get clips up there and showcase what I was doing. And
Wow.
that that helped me to get an agency. It helped me to book more shows. And then eventually, once TikTok was kind of in that early stages of blowing up, I got on it at just the right time and started putting clips of my hypnosis performances and shows up on TikTok. And I got so lucky with my experience on TikTok where I literally hit over 100,000 followers within 2 weeks of joining the
Whoa.
app, and was
That's
at
crazy. Yeah.
over a million within 2 months, and it just blew up and was crazy and helped grow my platforms elsewhere. And so that's what I kind of blew up online being known for, was being a hypnotist, and did that for a bunch of years. And then during the pandemic, when I couldn't perform and do my live shows anymore, and we are all kind of stuck at home figuring out what we do with all this time, I decided, you know what? I'm going to learn another skill. Like I'll go back to doing hypnosis when I can, but since I can't really do it right now, I've
Mhm.
always enjoyed singing and doing karaoke, but couldn't sing to save my life or sing on key or hold a tune. But I thought,
Yeah.
singing, like anything, is a skill, and hypnosis is a skill. I taught myself that skill, and why not do that with singing as well? So I started this journey of just deciding, you know what, I'm going to sing for an hour a day, do 30 minutes of vocal exercises and warm ups, and 30 minutes of singing very badly to karaoke in my room to whatever song I liked. And
Hmm.
so I just started doing that for an hour a day every single day. And it turned into singing an hour a day for a month, into a couple months, into the end of the year, into a full year. And it turned into me doing over 1,000 days in a row where I
Wow.
never missed a day. Even on days when I would be touring and doing shows, I'd be flying all day to a show, go do the show, get back to my hotel, and sing an hour at night before I go to sleep. I'd make sure I squeezed it in no matter what. Did 1,000 days of singing for an hour a day every single day. Started doing vocal lessons,
Wow.
working with a vocal coach at a certain point. And then about halfway through that journey, I decided, you know what? I want to start learning voice impressions. I've always thought it was cool that people could do all these voices and sound like all these characters.
Hmm.
And again, it's a skill like anything else. I learned hypnosis, I learned singing, I've learned all of these things over the course of my career. So why not add voice impressions to that? So I started just imitating and mimicking these characters, and starting with just kind of the classic, Mickey Mouse and Goofy and Donald Duck and kind of some of these characters, that expanded into learning more and more characters and kind of creating some content doing the voices for fun, and then getting to a certain point where I was realizing, you know what, I'm really enjoying this, having so much
Hmm.
fun with this. I think I want to start getting more into voice acting as more of my career. It was kind of the
Hmm.
same feeling I had when I started hypnosis. If I learned this for fun, but I'm really enjoying this and getting really good at this, and if I decide to take it seriously, I think I could really go far with this. And so I've been on kind of that journey now of focusing more on the voice acting side, and I still do shows. I have a couple
Hmm.
booked for this summer. A lot of times it's the back to school shows that are the busiest for me. So I'm kind of in this in between right now where I'm still doing hypnosis and getting more into voiceover. And last year I kind of did the due diligence of doing a lot of coaching and the
Hmm.
workshops and getting my demo reels done for commercial and animation. And so now this year is more that fun exploratory phase of figuring out booking voiceover work and booking voiceover roles. And so a lot of these
Wow.
videos you see of me kind of posting, oh, which voice fits the character the best, is one, a fun piece of content, but also a way to put myself out there, just like I do with the hypnosis clips of, hey, here's showcasing what I can do as a voice actor and a voiceover artist, and showing off my range, and not just doing the voices, but really being able to embody and personify characters. Because at the end of the day, voice acting is acting. And so being able to
Hmm.
showcase some of those skills. And so that's kind of the journey that I've been on. And the content started as a hypnotist and evolved into a voice actor. And this year was kind of the first year where I'm really focusing just on the voice acting on my content. The
Yeah.
last year or two was kind of a mix of, sometimes it would be hypnosis videos, sometimes it would be voiceover. But this year, because I know, hey, that's kind of the direction I'm starting to head and do
Hmm.
that more, is this year has been just purely voiceover content and trying to come up with different creative ideas, whether it's Donald Duck singing a pop song, or whether it's embodying different characters in a random animated animal, or covering another Disney song, or figuring out ways to make it work and showcase voiceover talents. That's kind of where I'm at now.
That's impressive. I think for me the most impressive thing next to your incredible talent is that you just go for things that you're interested in. Because I make the experience that people block themselves from going for things. So they kind of doubt themselves. There is something that holds them back. How would you approach life if you were in their physical shoes?
Man, I mean, I think just life is just way too short to not go after the things that you want. Like, we only have one life to live, and it's unfortunate that so many of us just kind of fall into that mindset of, we have to do what society expects and get
Mhm.
the normal job and go to the normal school and be normal. But no one wants to be normal. Like, we want to fit in, of course, but we all are unique and have our own passions and interests and dreams and things that light us up. And so to me, like, I've always had that mindset of, I want to do the things that I'm excited about doing. Like, the other details will fall into place. Like, yeah, I
Mhm.
haven't been super crazy financially successful doing all of these personal endeavors. Like I'm get by and do enough to pay my bills, but I'm able to do what I love over the course of my 20s, and I'll be 30 later this year, and so it's been a very fun, like fun filled 20s of doing all of these fun adventures of hypnosis and voice acting and singing and all of these fun things. And as I get better and grow, the finances will come when they come. But to me, to be able to have that freedom, like that ultimately is what's important to me, is that we can always make more money, but we can never make more time. Like time is the one true
Yeah.
finite resource that we have. Once the time's up, that's it. Like you can't get it back. So to me, my mindset has always been about using that time to the best of my ability.
Mhm.
And so if I was kind of in the shoes of somebody else who is figuring that out, I'd remind them and say, hey, look, man, you can always make more money. You can always do another career. You can always get another job, but you can't always get more time. Like this is one life you have to live. So this time is the most valuable resource you have. So spend it wisely.
Something that people will ask me in that case is, how do I even figure out what my passion is? Because I feel like I'm not interested in anything. Like I can't relate, but I haven't found an appropriate answer to this. Do you have one?
Yeah. So, and you find your passion as you evolve into trying new things. To me, like the two big things that I became passionate about over the course of my 20s, hypnosis and voice acting, weren't things that I just woke up one day and was like, aha, hypnosis, aha, voiceover. I know my
Yeah.
passion, everybody. Like, that's not the way it works. To me, it was just being curious and
Yeah.
trying new things. With hypnosis, it was at first just getting into magic because I thought magic and card tricks and sleight of hand was cool. And that evolved into trying other types of entertainment, trying comedy, trying stand up comedy, trying improv comedy, trying out doing hypnosis shows. And hypnosis was the one that, as I did that more and more, I realized, oh, wait, like I really like this and this is really fun
Mhm.
and I want to actually pursue this more. And voiceover was the same thing. It started with, I'm going to learn how to sing because I've always enjoyed karaoke, but have not been good at it. But I'm just going to try to get better at singing. And oh, I thought it's always been cool to do impressions. So I'm going to learn how to do different character voices. And now I'm going to get more into voice acting and trying to fully embody these characters and play these roles. And oh, wait a minute, like I really enjoy that. And that's a lot of fun. So I'm going to really try to focus more on that side of voice acting and being able to embody these roles and play these characters. And that kind of became a new passion, but it didn't start off as me being like, yes, that's it, a eureka moment. Like it really is just the evolution of trying new things. To give an analogy, it's sort of like, how do you know what your favorite food is? You don't just wake up one day and be
Love
like, I
it.
love pizza, I love sushi, that's my favorite food. You try a lot of foods, and as you eat more things and your taste buds evolve, you realize, oh, there are certain things that I really enjoy. And so it's the same thing with your passions and things that you are excited about in your dreams. Like you just have to try a lot of new things, do things that you're curious about, do things that excite you, do things you've never done but have wanted to try. And eventually one or two of those things you'll realize, oh, I really love that, that's for me. And that's something that I want to just continue to dive into even more.
I love that. What do people do if they are too afraid of failure? Is there anything that helps you?
Yeah, to me, I've always had this mindset that you can't fail. Like failure is an idea that we have in our mind of, oh no, if I don't get it right, I fail. But a cool way to reframe it is that it's impossible to fail because no matter what, you'll either win or you'll learn. And
Mm.
those are both good outcomes. Either you succeed and you get it right and you do what you set out to do, or you don't, but you become smarter, you become stronger, you become better, you understand a way that didn't work, right? It's the classic Thomas Edison quote where he said, I didn't just invent the light bulb, I invented 99 ways that a light bulb wouldn't work, right? You kind of
Hmm.
evolve over this process. And through failing, you learn. So to people that are afraid of failure, just remember you can't fail. You'll win or you'll learn. Either way, it's a good outcome. But failure is only just this idea that we create in our own head of something to be scared of. But when you realize it's just either a success or a lesson, there's no losing outcome.
Yes, that's so beautiful. Thank you. Why do you think people are oftentimes afraid of hypnosis when you approach them in the street in the first place?
I think because the media hasn't done a great job of portraying hypnosis as what it truly is. People watch a movie and they see something like Get Out with the teacup and they're like, "Oh no, am I going to go to the sunken place?" Or a
Hmm.
movie like the Office Space to pull out a throwback is where a guy gets hypnotized and the hypnotist falls over and dies and he's stuck in the state of hypnosis and it's like, oh no, what's
Yeah.
going on? Like, am I going to be stuck in hypnosis forever? It's like, no, that's not the way that it works.
I'll be a
Everybody,
chicken forever.
exactly. Oh no. But everybody looks at it as this, superpower, and oh no, I'm going to control your mind, and you're now my mind controlled zombie, and that's the way that hypnosis is often portrayed as a villain characteristic and this evil superpower. But really, it's just a natural psychological state that's similar to what we experience when we dream.
Hmm.
We all dream every single night. And when we dream, we don't question whether or not our dreams are real. Usually we don't. Usually we're in that experience where we are just experiencing the dream and we're like, wow, this is so crazy. And then when we
Yeah.
wake up, we realize, oh, wait, no, that didn't actually happen. That was just in my head. But hypnosis puts people into that state where the things that the hypnotist suggests in those moments, whether it's kind of a fun, silly thing on stage or whether it's a more serious thing for hypnotherapy or to help someone change their life. And people get into that state where they experience those ideas as if they're real, just like they do when they're dreaming. So it's a natural state. It's part of our psychology. It's something we all experience every single night when we fall asleep and dream. But it just gets a bad rap because people hear the word hypnosis and they think of the evil movie villain and the scary mind control hypnosis. And
Hmm.
that's where people's minds go.
How do you think hypnosis works? Is it more that it talks to some positive beliefs that we have, or does it give us an additional belief or idea?
So I think the power that hypnosis has is helping people to bypass the current limiting beliefs that they already have. And a fun way to think about it is it's almost like unhypnotizing the existing hypnosis we already experience. So for the example of the failure, like we talked about earlier,
Mm-hmm.
most people have this mindset of, oh, failure's bad, failure's scary, failure's something to be afraid of, ashamed of, we should avoid it. And this is a current thought, this is a current idea that is hypnotizing them into the reality they experience.
Yeah.
Wherever that idea came from, it wasn't a hypnotist said, hey, you should be afraid of failure. It's something that was conditioned over
Hmm.
life, but it's a belief that is affecting the way that we experience life. But as a hypnotist, if I were helping somebody to overcome that, it wouldn't just be about like, hey, we're erasing that idea, but it's helping people to bypass that critical, overthinking, overanalyzing part of their mind that's telling them, hey, this is the way I've always been taught. This is the way I've always been raised. This is what I've known to be true. Helping people push beyond that, because that's how we dream, is we push past our analytical part of our mind that would question whether or not the dream is real, and it just we experience it like it is. So hypnosis pushes past that
Hmm.
current belief and helps give people new beliefs, new ideas, new insights in a state where they're not going to question or overthink or overanalyze or overrationalize those beliefs, and push people into those new thought patterns. So in a way, it
Okay.
really is almost like an unhypnotizing of the current beliefs that are there, because we all have things that are operating in our brain that tell us how to live and who to be. But hypnosis is about sort of not necessarily replacing those, but getting past kind of that barrier and implementing new ideas and new suggestions to help make people better.
And at the end, it's your choice anyway, right? If you take
Yep,
the suggestion or not.
absolutely. It's like the classic, you
Wow.
can lead a horse to water, you can't make him
Make a
drink.
drink,
So it's,
right?
hypnosis isn't mind control. I can't just say, bam, you do whatever I say, but I can give you ideas and help your mind process it in a more healthy way and help them see it as a good idea. But ultimately, people need to not only accept those beliefs, but act on those beliefs too. Like, it
Hmm.
becomes a whole cycle of belief and experience. I like to say it's how we be beliefs and experiences. As we have a new belief,
Hmm.
whether it's one you have that's existing or whether it's one you get from a friend or a piece of advice or hypnosis or however you get a new belief, you get that belief and then you act on it. You have an experience where you act on this new belief and solidify that belief further. When you have a positive experience with that belief, you believe it even stronger. And then you have another experience, which makes that belief even stronger. And it solidifies that belief and that
Wow. Yeah.
experience cycle where that's just how you be. It's your belief and your experience. That's your life. But if you want a new belief or a new experience, that's the way to change your life, is you either change your belief or you change your experience. And a lot of people have a hard time just changing their experience and doing something different where, oh, okay, I'm just suddenly going to do something different than I've always done and try to be someone different. It's really hard for a lot of people. So as a
Hmm.
hypnotist, we help people to change that belief, give them a motivation, give them some sort of push in that right direction. But we can push all we want, but if somebody is still kind of stubborn and no, I don't want to act on this, I want to kind of stay stuck, then there's only so much we can do. But really, it is just about helping people to change that belief or change that experience so that they create that positive cycle and their life goes in the direction they want.
That's so interesting because I do have this conversation sometimes that people say, I can't start doing something, I cannot do the action if I don't believe the thing first. And my approach is a bit different. So I think I have to do the thing and I do it until I believe it. So I just do it anyway. But
Yeah.
as you said, it's probably difficult to start for some people because there must be a core belief. In my case, it is whatever's going to happen, it will be all right one way or another. So it isn't so bad if something happens that I don't like. So it's okay anyway. So I think if you don't have this core belief, it's probably difficult to start anyway and to develop this belief. And that's why I find it so interesting that this is where hypnosis can come in. It's basically like an affirmation, right?
Yeah, yeah, it really is. And it's an affirmation that again is acted on. And like you said, you had that
Mhm.
belief, but it sounds like you've acted on that belief and experienced the reality of
Yeah.
that belief so much that now it's become like almost an identity. It's solidified in there for you, where now it's easy to act on that belief. Whereas most
Hmm.
people will believe it, but they haven't experienced it yet. So they're like, oh, you're seeing is believing. I don't know yet. Like you have to kind of push
Yeah.
yourself, to make that first jump. And it can be scary and it can be hard, but really just that's the way we change. There's no right or wrong way. You can start with either the belief or the experience, whatever's easier, but you have to kind of make that cycle. You have to allow
Yeah.
them to kind of bleed into each other. Start with the
Hmm.
experience and then believe it more, or start with the belief and then experience it. Either way, like that's how you change your life. You pick one of those two and you jump in.
I love that. But it also technically means that it would be possible to convince me that I'm a chicken.
It sure is. Yeah, it would be a maybe a less articulate interview in that case. So.
Oh, but I did want to ask you if we can have a little Donald Duck exercise later in the game because I brought someone. It's my co-host because I'm also a little bit crazy. So my co-host is Jacques.
Oh, I love it.
It's Jacques, and because when I started Insanity, I was kind of alone, and I thought it would be fun to have a co-host. So I created Jacques, who lost his girlfriend in the washing machine. His
Oh
girlfriend's name,
no.
right, and his girlfriend's name is Hope. So he basically lost hope.
Oh.
He's French and he doesn't really talk, and Jacques needs a voice. And I thought maybe we could try some voices with
Oh,
Jacques
okay. All right. That could be fun.
and let the audience decide which
Let
one.
let the audience which voice fits Jacques the best. Yeah.
Yeah, what do you think? Should we?
All right. Well, the first voice that's sort of coming to mind is more of a distinguished gentleman voice. I know he's French, but this has a little more of a British accent to him. But I see almost a little mustache on his face. It almost a little black makes it look like a mustache. So it looks like he could be just a fine little distinguished gentleman. With this voice, you might need to give him a little bit of a top hat, or maybe a monocle, even, where he could be an even more distinguished Jacques. So that's one that we have. We also see he's got kind of these wide googly eyes, which is kind of fun. His eyes go all over the place. So maybe his voice is a little bit more silly, a little bit more cartoony, and he always has a lot of fun. And whoever he talks to, he can talk like this and be like, "Oh, I'm so excited to see you. Oh, even though I lost hope in the washing machine, it's okay. I still didn't lose my hope in my brain because the hope in my brain is always there and is never going to go away." So it could be something kind of silly like that.
Ooh,
Or
what do you
yeah,
think?
maybe if you want a more stereotypical French voice, if he is a French guy, you can do that. I probably should not be doing a French voice if I am not French. It is just a bad imitation of a French accent, but that is okay. If you want, you found a roll, a flower. Look at that. For you, my love, yes. And now I think Jacques is sounding more like Pepe Le Pew from the Looney Tunes. So I realize this voice is maybe too close to that character, but that is okay. So maybe one of those three voices. Let you guys sound off in the comments or online. Which of those voices do you think fits Jacques the best?
Come, Jacques, go to bed.
Well, good
That's
night.
that's awesome. I love that. Did you ever hypnotize yourself?
Yeah, so self hypnosis looks a little bit different than when you get hypnotized by somebody else, but it really is kind of that idea of kind of like affirmations, like we were talking about. But oftentimes I like to say hypnosis is similar to meditation, but I like to
Hmm.
call it meditation with utilization. You take that meditative
Hmm.
state and you do something with it. You give yourself those positive affirmations, you create that belief experience cycle. So to me, it's really more just about being aware of kind of some of those thoughts and ideas that are hypnotizing me and having more of this recognition to be like, all right, this is the belief or thought that's, predominantly in my mind right now. Should I believe this thought? Like, who am I when I believe this thought? Do I like the person I am if I believe this thought?
Hmm.
Do I not like the person I am when I believe this thought? If I don't, what thought would be more helpful to believe, and who would I be and how would I feel if I believed that thought instead, and understanding just from an intellectual perspective how those thoughts are hypnotizing or not hypnotizing me, and kind of making those adjustments and changes as necessary.
Yeah, that's a very strong point that you have the choice. I think there are also many people out there who don't understand that there is a difference between what they think and themselves. So they have a hard time questioning these thoughts and questioning these beliefs.
And I think so
Um,
many so many people identify with what they think, and they think,
mhm.
oh, because I thought the thought, it comes from me, and I'm the one that brought up that thought. And if I think something bad, I must be a really bad person because I had a really bad thought. But we don't fully understand neuroscience and consciousness to the point of understanding where our thoughts come from. We don't know where they fully come from, or why they show up, or why we think what we think. A good way to think about it is you can't control what you think. Sometimes thoughts are just going to pop into your head,
Mhm.
but you can control what you do with those thoughts when they show up. There's an analogy I like to use all the time that, thoughts are kind of like waves in the ocean. You can't stop the waves from coming, but you can choose which ones you want to surf. You can't stop the
Yeah,
thoughts from popping into your mind, but you can choose which thoughts you dwell on. You can choose which thoughts you focus on. You can choose which thoughts you believe, because ultimately what you believe is, who you become.
that's really beautiful. And I also think that the more we shape this experience consciously, like the more we decide what thoughts we give attention to, the more we change these thought patterns over time. So just because we have a thought, that's true, we don't know where it comes from. But I also think if I don't react to it, if I just don't do what it wants from me, I just recognize it's there and that's it,
Yeah.
then it will also disappear. And I don't have this thought maybe in a year or two anymore.
Yeah. And that's really, like, I think a lot of people, when they think of something like meditation, get
Mhm.
confused, where they're like, oh, meditation is just a state where I need to just not think and sit there and just have, but thoughts are going to pop into your mind. And again, we can't stop them from showing up. But meditation is more just about not identifying with those thoughts. When you,
Yeah.
like, you sit in that state where if you think something, whatever thought pops into your mind, good or bad or happy or sad or any sort of variation of thought, you just let it come in and let it go out. Whatever
Hmm.
thought comes in, you let it, and you sit there and be okay with whatever thought comes in. You're not judging the thought, you're not identifying with the thought, you're not taking any thought personally. You're just in this state where you're giving yourself permission to be human and let whatever thoughts pop into your mind
Hmm.
be there and exist and come in and come out. So most people are like, oh, I can't meditate because I can't not think. Yeah, none of us can not think. We don't know how this works. But just to be in this state where we just don't identify with those thoughts, don't give those thoughts power, because it's
Mhm.
not the thought itself that has power. It's the meaning that we attach to that thought.
Yeah. And how often do you meditate?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's more. I wouldn't say I meditate traditionally in the way where it's like, oh, I just kind of sit 10 minutes and kind of be in that state. But it's
Hmm.
more just that recognition of, if I'm kind of having a rough time, a rough moment, I'll kind of take a minute and be like, all right, just in my head, be like, all right, what are those
Yeah,
thoughts that are causing me to do that? And almost like a self evaluation of, all right, this thought and this meaning I'm attaching to this thought is making me feel this
cool.
certain way. So if I can re-identify that, then I can shift the way I feel in that moment. And it's almost just kind of like a mental pit stop where I'm like, all right, hold
Hmm.
on, like I'm not liking the way that I'm reacting or feeling in this moment. So how do I shift into a different thought, or attaching to a different thought, or giving it a different meaning, which would make me feel a different way?
Yeah, I can totally relate to that. For me, it's the same. Like I don't really have a strict meditation routine, although I do try, to not to forget it entirely. But in general, it's also more of I call it grounding. So whenever I feel that something's off or I'm taking myself too seriously, I will kind of zoom out and be who I am and not just the reactive personality structure or whatever that
Right.
is. Yeah, yeah, that's beautiful advice. Do you think that there is something that people can do in their everyday life, like a little practice that brings them closer to this?
Yeah, I think it would just be asking yourself those questions of, if you
Hmm.
are having a hard time, first asking yourself the question, if you are thinking a thought, ask yourself, is this thought true? Like,
Hmm.
is this thought true? Most of the time it's not. And even if it feels like it's true, maybe ask yourself, can you really, really know with 100% certainty that this thought is true? Most of the time it's just a thought, it's just a perspective, it's an idea, it's an extrapolation, it's something that our mind is kind of stretching the
Hmm.
truth on. So most of the time we can kind of catch our mind and be like, hey, is this true? Is this really, really true? But then asking yourself, taking it a step further and going, who am I with this thought? When I believe this thought and I feel this thought in my mind, how is this making me feel? How is this changing me for better or for worse? When I attach myself to this thought, who am I becoming? Do I like that version of myself? And then asking yourself the flip side of that question, who would I be without the thought? If I
Mm.
didn't attach to this thought, if I didn't believe this thought, if I didn't fully identify with that meaning of the thought and believe it was true and hold on to that, who would I be? Would I like that version of myself better? Would I feel more at peace? Would I feel less anxious? Would I feel more confident? Who would you be without the thought? So, whenever you're kind of in that state, asking yourself those questions of like, is this thought true? Do I really know that this thought is true? Who am I with this thought? And then who would I be without this thought? And you'll kind of free yourself from that release
Yeah.
of that thought hypnotizing you into this reality you're in.
Yeah, great practice. I have another question about voice.
Okay.
So I feel that maybe it's just me, but I don't think so. But I feel that my voice changes somehow, or it depends on who I'm talking to, or because I'm speaking different languages. So originally, I'm from Eastern Europe, so from Ukraine, but I grew up in Germany, and now I'm in the US, and
You've been all over the place. All
all
right.
the way, exactly. And every language makes me speak in a different voice a little bit. Maybe people don't even recognize it, but I can hear it when I hear, my WhatsApp messages, for example. So I think, oh, it sounds a bit different. Also, it depends on who I'm talking to and what day it is. I don't know, like the topic. The voice can change, and sometimes I feel, my voice is like super grounded and I sound like an adult, and sometimes it's the total opposite. And I'm wondering, why is it? Is it different personalities? Does every personality that we have also have a different voice? And which one's the real one?
Yeah, I mean, it's such a fun question, and you've one up me. I've done so many different voices, but
Yeah.
English is the only language I speak. So, bravo on you for speaking all of these different languages. But
Thanks.
I mean, ultimately, like when you think about it scientifically, the voice is just the sound that comes out of our mouth, and that sound can change depending on the shape of our mouth, depending on how much air we have coming in or out of our mouth.
Mhm.
So if I am just talking normally, but suddenly I just drop my jaw a little bit more, I have a little bit more resonance in the way that I speak. I'm not putting on a voice, it's the same amount of voice, but my jaw is dropping more. Versus if I'm kind of just not opening my mouth and there's less air, I have a little bit more nasal sound, a little squeakier. I'm not letting as much air come out. If I pinch my nose when I talk, then it sounds super nasally. Again, it's just the same voice, but it's changing the amount of air that's coming in. And so it's
Yeah.
making a different sound. So, however you do it, if you talk with a really big smile, a really, really
Huh.
wide face, again, it's the same voice, but it sounds much wider. You have a different sound that comes in versus if I just talk with the way my jaw would normally stop. So it really just is. And sometimes that's language. When we have certain vowel modifications or certain ways that we say phrases as in different languages, some languages have a little bit more of a tighter talking style. Some have a little bit more of a looser talking style. When you're talking with friends or family or for business, sometimes you can be a little bit more professional and in this state where you kind of have good posture and feeling good. If you're chilling with your friends, you might be a little more relaxed and kind of hanging out, right? So a lot of it really does come down to your facial posture and where your jaw is positioned and whether your soft palate is relaxed or whether it's tight and how much air is coming in and out of your nose or your mouth. And so your voice can change based on all of these factors. But it is a really fascinating question to think about, how that evolves into specific languages. And every language is unique and has their own specific style of saying words and phrases, and that
Mhm.
can directly change how the voice sounds.
And I feel also personalities. I feel like we don't, or maybe I'm strange, but I just feel I have different versions of myself. So and it's not like I'm an entirely different person, but there are tiny variations. And I
Yeah.
feel that sometimes when I'm more in my head, then also my voice is probably higher, and probably that's because I'm not relaxed. That was a really interesting point. Maybe I'm not relaxed here, but when I'm more conscious and I would relax my face, then maybe
Yeah.
also my voice goes down and even my thinking is different if I do
Yeah.
that.
It is funny just to think about how we do have different personalities based on who we talk to, whether we're talking
Hmm.
with a friend, whether we're talking with a family member, a boss, or a coworker, we're talking with our pet, we use a different voice, right? We have different personalities depending on who we talk to. And part of that's just the fun experience of life. And we have these different kind of versions of us that communicate. And, it's not
Yeah,
this one, oh, it's just me and it's just the same version of Zach every time. It's like, it's fun to think about the fact that every person I've met has experienced a different version of Zach. some
yeah.
people some people might love it, some people might hate it, some people might think I'm super great, some people might think I'm super not, some people have had good experiences, some people might not have had good experiences. Like, I hope everyone that I come across has a good experience, and I
Yeah.
try to make that be the case, but sometimes people have an off day and they interpret things differently. Like, you never know. So
Hmm.
there's these infinite versions of me that are out there, there's infinite versions that are you that are out there based on all of these unique experiences we've had with unique human beings. And part of that is just the fun reality of being a human in this thing we call the earth.
Yeah, for sure. And you can't do anything about it. So,
Unfortunately not. So
yeah, but do you think that your personal voice, like your normal speaking voice, changed once you started practicing? Did it do something to it?
I think it might have changed. It might have gotten a little bit more resonant just as my voice got a little bit stronger. But
Hmm.
naturally, I have just a little bit of like the higher voice. I have a little bit of a higher tone. So if I were to like, oh, try to talk, I'd have to force myself to really have more of a deeper sounding voice.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
naturally, the voice is a little bit higher. So that's why, and that's part of the fun of being a voice actor is you kind of, in the same way that you get typecast as an on-camera actor based on what you look like. If your natural voice kind of sits in a certain place, you're good for certain characters. So that's why kind of the young
Yeah.
adult, young superhero. Oh, if someone's looking for this fun, young, excited character, my voice just kind of naturally sits in this place where he can be so excited and be good and feel like you have a lot of energy. Like, my voice kind of naturally sits in that place
Hmm.
where it's just a little bit higher to get to that state, but otherwise, like, that's where my voice naturally sits. And so,
Yeah.
yeah.
Which one is your favorite character, by the way?
Ooh. Favorite character to voice or favorite
Yes.
character in general?
Yeah, to voice.
Ooh, I mean, I love voicing characters with a lot of energy. So, for example, someone like, oh, the Mad Hatter from Alice in Wonderland. Like, he's always so crazy and always gets up here. He's always so excited. Like, so getting characters like that where you can really put a lot of energy into that performance is always a ton of fun.
Oh, wow. I wish I could do that. Oh my God, I'll have to practice when I'm alone.
When you're alone practice. And a
Practicing
big
all the
part
time.
of big part of voiceover too is understanding that like it's that embodiment of the character that's the most fun. It's like, a
Mm,
lot of people can do the voices and that's the first step is learning to do different voices, but because voice acting is acting, like how do we embody that character? So for example, like taking the Mad Hatter again, like if I were to just I'll do the voice, but just talk like myself, and I'm talking the way I've been talking throughout this whole interview. But now I'm doing the Mad Hatter's voice. Like, it's not that interesting because it's a different voice, but I'm still just talking the way that Zach was talking. Oh, but suddenly, if I add that cadence, and that times where sometimes he can get really quiet, and sometimes he gets loud. He has a nose laugh and a giggle, and he's always just having so much fun. Then it feels like more of a character versus just going back to the way Zach was talking and making Zach seem so much more boring in comparison, going to that speaking style versus the Mad Hatter. So you kind of have that difference where it's being able to fully embody that character is what makes it so fun, and
oh,
that's what makes a good voice actor.
how are you doing that? How are you switching so fast? Because that's so cool. Because I mean, these are different people. This is a different energy. How do you find the switch? Where is it? How do you use it?
Oh, I mean, I think I've just gotten used to it. I mean, I do a lot of videos where I'm doing like all of these Disney characters singing one songs, and I don't people realize like it's one take of me doing all of these characters. So it's like,
Hmm.
oh no, switch from doing Mickey Mouse Morse into Goofy. Oh, into like Winnie the Pooh. Tigger, the wonderful thing about Tigger. Into Winnie and Eeyore as well. Like you just kind of switch into all of these voices. So I'm used to kind of having this rapid pace of I'm in this one, I'm in this one, I'm in this one. And so it's kind of just become a second habit at this point.
That's awesome. You know, you just made me think about Marilyn Monroe for some reason. So, because there is this story that she would be just the actress, just Norma, who was
Yeah.
walking down the street and nobody would recognize her. And then she would flip a switch within herself, in her heart, somehow, and people would recognize her. So she would shift her energy, she would shift her entire personality. Um, and I think I do that sometimes. I think I I know how I'm doing this, but I can't verbalize it. How
Yeah,
does
I
it
mean, I
work?
think it comes back to that idea of hypnosis that we were talking about earlier.
Hmm.
It's the belief. Like when we
Hmm.
have a belief, that creates a new experience. If in that moment, if Norma Jean is thinking, "Hey, I'm now going to create this belief. I'm Marilyn Monroe," she embodies that and she creates that experience. If I'm voicing a character and I'm saying, "Oh, in this moment, I'm going to believe I am this character, and how would this character act, and how would they be?" That creates a new experience. So whatever we do in our life, whether it's embodying a character or being an actress or whatever it is, or trying to be motivated or follow our dreams, if we really latch onto that belief and we say, this is what we are going to do and this is who I'm going to become, we will find that we change into evolving into that belief. We do what we need to do to make that belief become our reality. And so it really is just a fun way about how the mind works, is when we really, really believe something with conviction, we find we have a different experience and we change and evolve into that belief. So how exactly does it work? I don't know, but that's the way that our mind kind of works in the psychology of consciousness
Yeah.
and belief, and it's a superpower if you learn how to do it well.
What my experience was when I was a teenager is that I could channel different personalities. Means if they existed already and I knew, oh, that's a character from this show and I like this character from this TV show, let's say. And if I want to, then I can move my own personality to the side and I can just say, I want this one now. And then I would just let it take over. So of
Yeah.
course it is not entirely not me, and I'm also kind of in there, but it is you're still performing a character that you choose, and it works. It just goes naturally.
Yeah. And I think that's what makes, acting so much fun, and why people are such great actors, is they can fully step into those roles and fully embody that character. And it's not, oh, I'm Zach just acting like I'm this character, but no, in that
Yeah.
moment I'm that character, and how would that character respond and what would they do, and just fully stepping into that role.
How do you find back to yourself, to Zach again? Just let's say you're performing all day long. Like, do you bring these characters with you? So let's say you're talking to your mom and suddenly you're Donald again, or you're like,
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah. So a lot of times it comes in that role where it's like, all right, we kind of wrapped, and my brain can kind of switch. All right, now I'm back into Zach and back out of that character. And a lot of times it's in those moments where, especially as an actor, where they say and action, or oh, and we're recording. That's kind of the
Mhm.
cue of like, all right, we're switching in, or it's like and cut. Like, okay, you kind of have those natural cues that kind of pulls you back out of it. But it is funny where I had a role recently where I was embodying a character. I was cast to play a character for a couple weeks and was on set, and I found myself just naturally talking in kind of the mannerisms of that character, just to my
Yeah.
friends, like, oh, no, I gotta leave that behind. It's not the way that I should be talking. But so sometimes when you really, really are invested in a character and working a long time on it, you can kind of creep
Yeah.
back in. You gotta fight back against that. But for the most part, it's usually pretty easy to just be like, all right,
Okay,
back to
I'm
Zach.
back.
Zach's back again. Yeah.
That's super cool. I have another question about hypnosis, actually. I don't want to
Okay.
forget it. Like, if you could hypnotize the entire planet for like 60 seconds, what would you tell everyone?
Ooh, wow. It's a great question. I think I would remind people that you are enough, exactly as you are, that there is not another person on this earth, there never has been, and there never will be another person who is exactly like you. And that you are so special, you are so gifted, you are so talented, you are so loved more than you realize, and that it's easy for the world to make you forget that that's reality and that's true, but you are enough, you always have been enough, and that will always be true. So don't believe the lies of the world. Don't get hypnotized by culture, by friends, by family, by media, by any of these other things that are trying to convince you that you're not enough. But you are enough exactly how you are. And don't forget it. That's what I
Oh,
would
nice.
hypnotize everyone to hear.
I think you just hypnotized me with that. Wow, that's
There
great.
we go. One down, another 8 billion to go. So we're on the right
Yeah.
track.
Yeah, I have actually been hypnotized once because I had a hypnotherapist in on one of my podcast episodes, and I because I was so curious and I didn't really know how this worked. And I'm usually like I'm super open. If someone would talk to me in the streets and would say I'll try to hypnotize you, if I think that's a cool person, I'd say yeah, sure, let's go. So I was all down for it, and the like the practice was I had to move my hands closer together. And it actually worked. And I was so impressed like that I would just do it. And it was just like a practice of like 20, 30 seconds. Can we do that?
Yeah. Oh, you're wanting to do it again if like the hands coming together? Like,
Or whatever you like. I would be super open to a 30 seconds hypnosis or
oh,
something.
wanting to try something for yourself.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, we could try that. Or even like we can try something where like let's try this where you have both of your hands out
Hmm.
like this and just kind of bring them together, just
Hmm.
out in front of you. Interlock all of your fingers, and I want you just to focus on which thumb is on top, the left or the right. It doesn't really matter, but just go ahead and stare at that thumb, whichever one is on top, the left or the right.
Hmm.
As you just stare at those two hands, just continue to focus on that spot on your two hands. Just don't take your eyes off that spot. Continue to lock onto the sound of my voice. And as your mind locks onto the sound of my voice even more, I want you to begin to just start to squeeze those hands tighter and tighter together. Really imagine those hands fusing together. In fact, almost imagine your hands have suddenly become joined together as if they are one solid pound of skin and bones and muscle and flesh. As your hands squeeze tighter and tighter together, imagine them just completely fused, lock, stuck tight together. In fact, those hands have become so joined, so together, so locked, so glued that if you were to try to separate those hands, you find that right now you cannot. Right now, those hands are just stuck. Try to pull those hands apart and notice they are just stuck. They don't want to come
Oh, yeah.
apart. They are just glued. They are locked. They won't come apart until I reach the number three. When I reach the number three, then they will be unstuck. They can fall apart easily. Ready? One, two, and three. Just like that. You find then those
Wow.
hands
Yeah,
pop
it
apart.
works 100%. That was incredible. That's incredible. It's like it is as if these parts were heavy.
Yeah. It's again that idea that you create that belief in your mind. It's a simple little silly belief of, oh, what if my hands were stuck and you couldn't pull them apart? But you allowed yourself to fully latch onto that idea so completely that became what you experienced in that moment. And now anyone can try this at home, but if they were in that state of, all right, I'm going to try this. No, I'm not going to focus on, oh, my hands aren't going to come together. They can come apart easily. What are you talking about? This doesn't
Yeah.
work. Well, that's maybe because you were latched onto this idea that it wouldn't, or you were focused on the idea that your hands can come apart instead of letting yourself become locked into the idea that they are stuck together. And if you allow yourself to fully be immersed in that idea, you will experience it. If you don't, you won't. Again, it's not mind control. I'm not forcing you or anyone to have this experience, but I help facilitate people in that right direction of if you want to experience something different, allow yourself to be fully immersed in that belief, in that idea, and that becomes your experience.
Yeah, it's like you kind of allow yourself to trust the other person and to just, let them do their thing. And I think
Yeah.
if people go to a hypnotherapist, for example, because they want to quit smoking, let's say, then they already made the choice that they would probably trust this person. Otherwise, why would you even go?
Yeah.
So I think then it becomes probably easier to open up,
Absolutely.
hopefully.
People will go and they will want to prove to themselves that it won't work, right? They'll be like,
Hmm.
"Oh, my spouse recommended I go see a hypnotherapist, but I'm fine. I don't have an issue. So I'll go just to prove this thing won't work." And they go in and don't have an open mind and they're like, "Oh, they already are told themselves it's not going to work." And so that's the belief they have and that's the experience they create for themselves. Where most people hopefully are going in with the hope and the desire to want to change and to be open and want to have this experience, but sometimes people are just closed off and they're like, all
Mm.
right, well, I'm gonna try this just to prove to myself that it won't work. And well, then you're just screwing yourself over in that process. But you really do
Yeah.
have to have an open mind and be willing to have a new belief and a new experience in the process.
I've watched one of your videos, and there was a girl that you asked to give a motivational speech. So you asked her to be a motivational speaker, and she was kind of uncomfortable with it, and she didn't really say so much. But it was okay, fine anyway. But then you hypnotized her into believing that she is the best motivational speaker ever, and her speech improved like 1 million times. And that
Just
was
like that.
impressive. It's just like that, but it was, I mean, that was within 10 seconds
Yeah.
or
The
20.
nice thing is when I'm doing a show, like I already have people in that state that are they're in that hypnotized state where the belief or suggestion that I give to
Hmm.
them becomes their experience. And most of the time at the show, it's kind of the fun, silly things of, oh, you think you're stuck to your chair, or you forget your name, or you think I'm invisible, or you think I'm your favorite celebrity. And that always gets a big reaction, right? But I always like to do this example at every show where I'll have somebody and I'll ask, oh, how many of you, as a hypnotist, I'm a public speaker and I love speaking in front of big crowds. How many of you love public speaking? And how many of you don't like it? And I'll try to find the person that's so like nervous they don't even want to raise their hand and admit that they don't
Yeah.
like speaking in front of
Hmm.
people. So then I'll ask them, I'll say, hey, how would you feel if I were to ask you to just say something in front of this crowd here? And most of the time they're like, oh, no, I can't. No, I could never. Like, oh, I'm so nervous. So I have them do it and push themselves to just try just to show what it's like before I give them the idea. And
Hmm.
because they're already in the state of hypnosis, all I do is just put them back in and say, hey, here's the new belief. Next time you open your eyes, you suddenly feel amazing about public speaking, no longer anxious, super confident, you love it, you're the best. 1, 2, 3, wide awake, and have them come out of it. And literally within 30 seconds to a minute, they're like, hey, I feel great. How's everyone doing? Hey, what's going on? And you see that immediate change
Hmm.
because they're already in that state where they're going to be receptive to whatever idea or belief that I give them. But it shows and demonstrates just how strong and powerful the mind really is,
Yeah.
right? And if people are watching the show, they're like, oh, they're just faking it. They're just pretending to be stuck. They're just pretending to not know their name. They're just pretending you're their favorite celebrity. Well, are they pretending that they suddenly can speak confidently in front of a lot of people? Were they pretending to not be good this whole time?
Hmm.
No, it's just they're acting based off of their belief system. They're acting based off of the current belief that's operating in their mind of, oh, I know my name. Oh, now the belief's different and I don't know my name. Oh, I'm really nervous at speaking. Oh, actually, now I really enjoy speaking. Whatever belief is telling them will become their experience is their experience. And so, again, that's just the way that the mind works. And it's such a cool thing about hypnosis, but it's not me as a hypnotist that has this special superpower that haha I can fix people and make them better and do all these things. The power's there inside your mind. The power is in all of our minds. We have that
Hmm.
ability. You don't even need a hypnotist. You don't need me. If you really tap into that idea of your beliefs are so strong and whatever you believe will be what you experience. So the question I leave you with as you're listening to this is, what will you believe? Because at the end of the day, what you believe is what you think. What you think is ultimately what you do, and what you do is who you become. What you believe ends up bleeding into who you become. It all starts with your beliefs.
I love this. Oh my God, thank you so much. I have just one task. It's replacing the last question.
Okay.
Um, the task is if you were a magical movie character, a magical fairy tale character, which one would you be? If you have pen and paper, you can also take 2 or 3 minutes to draw it.
Oh, I won't suffer you guys through my horrible drawing skills. But are you talking about like an existing character that I would voice, or one that doesn't exist, or something that
Something that doesn't exist yet.
I think, well, based off of an idea, I think it would be cool to voice a character that has a lot of personality.
Hmm.
Like to me, an example would be a character that's kind of like the genie from Aladdin, which Robin Williams voiced so brilliantly and so
Yeah,
amazing. And I love how that character, they just gave him the freedom to improv and be himself and be silly and be so off the walls and serious and everything rolled into one. So to me, I think that type of character, whatever the character looks like, doesn't matter too much to me. But to me, those are the things that excite me about a character, is that freedom to just kind of play and be silly and have fun and just fully be in that
yeah.
character role. So something that would have that sort of crazy freedom, because most of the time you voice a character and here's a script, here's what the character would say, and voice those lines. But to have a character where you can just kind of be fun and be silly and have that full improv experience to just be so ridiculous, I think would be the dream.
That's great. I was thinking the whole day about it. I was thinking like, what character would you be? If this was my fairy tale, which one would you be? And I thought I'm also not very good at painting, but it's a hat.
Oh, I
It's
like it.
it's like the Hogwarts hat. And I thought, I would put it on my head if I have a limiting belief, and then the hat would talk to me and it would remove the limiting belief.
Perfect. Stumpy the Hat. Stumpy the Hat is just going to make sure whatever you believe, you'll experience. Make sure, yes. That's what, don't believe those negative thoughts. No, 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 no. You don't want to experience those. Yes. Confidence, confidence, good thoughts, positive thoughts. Believe all of those because, again, what you believe is who you become.
I love that. Oh, thank you so much, Zach. That was so much fun.
Of course. Thank you. This is a lot of fun. The time flew by. Look at this.
Right. Right. It was an awesome interview. I learned so much from you.
Did you want to throw in any Donald Duck at the end? I know you were wanting to do a little portion of
I want to.
Donald in the interview.
I want maybe an affirmation with Donald Duck.
Oh, an affirmation with Donald Duck is going to be so hard to be able to understand.
Come on, you can do it. I believe in you. You are the best. You are amazing. You are number one.
Good luck if you were to make a half of what he said there. That's the fun, annoying thing about Donald, is he's so difficult to understand. But
I
that
think
was
he
my
said,
best attempt.
"You are so amazing." May that replace whatever limiting belief anyone has.
Yeah, there we go. Yes, yes. Good job. You worked out Donald Duck. You cracked the code. Congratulations.
Yeah, this is the benefit when you speak like Russian and
Oh, hey, there you
German, all
go.
that stuff.
And now you speak duck. You add another language in there
Now
too.
I
Perfect.
speak Dutch. At least I understand Dutch, which is the first step to
There
speaking
you
it
go. There
myself.
you go.
I'll learn it. Oh God, thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Anna. This was super fun.
Have
Sounds
a
good.
great and beautiful day. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You too. All right. I'll
Bye.
talk to you later. Bye.
Yes, bye.
Question